This is Life Transformation Radio. Prepare to engage. Seatbelt activated. Download initiated. Your quantum journey of transformation begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. Hi, I'm Rob Actis, best-selling author of The Law of Action, voice actor, business mindset coach, the podcast whisperer, and Mr. Action himself. And here at Life Transformation Radio, we are committed to share more about real life, love, the power of positivity, romance, and I promise you today, we're going to have some laughter. We care about helping others find their internal drive and purpose, and we celebrate life's challenges and overcoming them. On the show, my guests are amazing people who are forces for good in the world around them and live a life of transformation. My guest today, she does just that. In this episode, Naomi Mamiye and I discuss how when an opportunity isn't a right fit for you, that there's something better coming your way. So if you want to prove naysayers wrong, understand that no one can take away what is meant for you and learn to embrace your personal journey. This is the show for you. Naomi, welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Hello.
You're here. Oh man, we had tech goblins like nobody's business, but we worked through it, didn't we?
We didn't give up.
We did not give up.
That's my motto.
I love
my
that.
kids all the time, we don't give up.
No,
Keep trying again and again.
And you did fantastic. I was so thrilled that and I'm like, okay, even to the point of, I made her, this is how committed Naomi is to be on the show today. We tried this last week and her microphone just wasn't working. And as the podcast whisperer, and I consult people on podcasts, and as a listener, you get what's called listener fatigue. So if the microphone doesn't have a good sound to it and there's echo and it just is hard to listen to, you're not going to listen. And Naomi has a great story. I'm thrilled to share it with you. So her commitment, she actually went out and purchased a microphone so she can have those dulcet tones and sound amazing via the wonders of modern technology all the way coast to coast here in Arizona. And you're in what? New Jersey, right?
I am in New York, upstate New York.
All right, there you go.
I used to live in New Jersey.
There you go.
There. Yeah.
All right, so, life brings us challenges and tragedies. This microphone issue and this tech issue wasn't a tragedy. However, you have had some tragedies in your life. And let's just peel back this onion for our TikTok live audience and also the Life Transformation Radio audience. So you actually had a childhood full of tragedies and you got married quite young.
Right.
How young?
I at 19, but
that's quite young.
I felt like many other young girls. You think like getting married is, a man's going to save you from all your problems. That's the solution.
Right.
So I was a typical foolish kid.
It's the fairy tale that all women grow up with. They're gonna go through life. They're gonna have a wonderful life. They're gonna meet Prince Charming and then happily ever after.
Right. Exactly. And they're so wrong. It doesn't solve a thing.
It more responsibility. Exacerbates issues, doesn't it?
It does. It's definitely not the solution. People think like money's a rich guy is gonna save them, and those are usually like stuck up and full of themselves. And you have a children's mind, and it's not yet developed. I really didn't belong married yet. I didn't find myself yet. I was just looking for escape. My mother got sick when I was 10 years old with skin cancer, with melanoma. She was a redhead, and she had moles all over her body, but there was one on her back that kept growing and growing, but she didn't see it or notice it because it was on her back.
Right.
So she died from melanoma, and then my father got remarried. my stepmother didn't want me. So I went to live with my grandparents, and then living with my grandparents, one of them got sick with cancer. And then I went to live with the other set of grandparents, and one of them got sick with cancer. And then I went back to the other one. So, but to make the long story short, I was young with no family. Both parents ended up dying of cancer, and both sets of grandparents died of cancer. So I was desperate for a home of my own. I needed that stability. And so I got married for that stability. And, I rushed into something that wasn't for me. So,
I want to just stop for a moment. So with all of that trauma going in your life as you're growing up, I would imagine there was friction in the relationship between your mom and your dad, because that's just what happens when there's a diagnosis of cancer or any terminally ill or any death in the family. It changes the dynamics, and so you probably didn't have a guide of how a relationship should be because you're under that severe trauma. Would that be accurate to say?
No. My father, no.
Good.
My father.
Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah. No.
No, Rob, you're wrong. That's not the way it was.
Not in my case.
Okay, good.
I still have letters from my mother. I was 10 years old when my mother got sick, and when I found out she had cancer, I actually stopped talking to her. I stopped talking to her because I was mad at her. I had a cushy life, upper middle class. I was a spoiled brat, got everything I wanted. We had a beautiful house, a beautiful car, and she went and got sick and disrupted my whole life. Okay. I was so mad at her when I was 10 years old. I refused to speak to her till she died. So, like if I could turn back time, I was a foolish kid, and I didn't understand that it wasn't her fault. She didn't choose to get sick. So, I look back at myself, I was like, what was I thinking? But I was a child at the time, but I actually have letters. So my mother, for her melanoma, they gave her no hope here in the United States. So my father actually went with her, to the Bahamas to,
treatment.
A treatment in the Bahamas that wasn't approved by the FDA in the United States. And he loved her. He tried to do anything to save her. She wrote me letters like, I never wrote back, but she kept writing me letters from there. Your father's so good to me. He feeds me. He carries me. It's such a beautiful example. He was really good to her. He really took care of her. He wanted her to live so badly. He really, my mother was a spunky ball of fire, and she took such good care of my father. He was on a platter all the time.
I'm thinking that you kind of got the spunk from your mom, because you're definitely a
yes.
spunky ball of fire. So yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
I am. But she was this tiny little redhead. I look totally different, but I definitely have her personality.
I can feel it. I can feel it.
Yeah.
Really, really beautiful. So I'm sorry for your loss. And so your mother passed away, and then you said your father passed away.
My father passed away years later. My first, my father got remarried, and my stepmother didn't want me. So that's why I was displaced.
I'm trying to follow along. There's a lot going on here.
Kicked out to my grandparents. She didn't want me. I was sent to my grandparents, and then one of them got sick. And then I was switched to the other set of grandparents, and then one of them got sick. It was not, if they don't have like a close relative that went through cancer, they don't know. It's like grueling disease. It is so slow. It eats away at you. It is like, it's one thing to die in a motorcycle crash or something. Cancer is just like, it's gut wrenching. It's really, it's not instant, and it's prolonged agony for both the patient and the family. And so I went through this actually 6 times.
You're going to make me cry. I just got off the phone with one of my longest, dearest friends, and he just confided in me that he has cancer and he's going through chemo. And, Yeah, it's hard. It's heart-wrenching. And, it's interesting how people don't want to put a burden on their family and friends and tell them. And, I'm so glad that, we had that conversation. It's still a little raw. He doesn't want me to feel sorry for him. And I don't. We were laughing and I was being crazy Rob. But, it's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. It is. And like I said, just right before this, I just got off the phone with him. So having this conversation is a little tender. Just no.
Yeah. I hear you. I feel for you.
It's a lot.
And so I got married out of just desperation. That's about it. I just wanted a home finally, instead of, going from here, there, everywhere.
Right.
And so I got married young, and I thought that would be the solution. And he was actually a nice guy, but I did not. There was no connection. I mean, I didn't get married to him because of love, or we formed a bond.
Stability.
But he was a nice guy, and after years, I just. I was just lonely because I didn't connect to him. I was just lonely. And, I needed, afterwards, since I had no family and I was home with 4 little kids, I needed a way to support myself. So.
Okay. You're fast forwarding. You're moving really fast. You're moving really fast. So just.
Okay. Go ahead. Let's rewind.
So you got married and you were 19 years old, and you married a man who, you met, you dated, and he was able to provide. That's really, and give you stability. Would that be kind of accurate?
Right. No. Yeah. No.
He was a nice guy, not your Prince Charming, but he got to be with you, this incredibly beautiful, vivacious, powerful woman, and you were taken care of. And then you had four kids.
Right. But I found myself because I got married for the wrong reason and there was no connect, and he totally didn't get my personality. He was a sweet guy. I wish him well. We still, we didn't get divorced with lawyers or anything.
It just transitioned
I just found myself,
to
after
something
so many
else.
years, I just was so lonely because he didn't get my jokes or my personality. He just didn't understand me. We were on two different planes. And, I don't want to do that to my kids. So I just kept pushing another year. And then I said to myself, I just can't do this. So I got divorced, and, I didn't have an income from, he got remarried right away.
So typical. I mean, you got divorced. You're a single mom. You have 4 kids. And you now have to reinvent yourself because you relied on him to take care of everything. And then you have a massive transformation in your life that has to happen. Right. And you have to rebuild and rise from the phoenix, because I would imagine that would be incredibly devastating. 4 kids. You no longer have a husband. You no longer have, that safety net, and everything's feeling like it's burning down, and you have to rise from the ashes because you have to take care of your children, and you also have to take care of yourself. And then you have to learn how to do all of this all at once.
Right. So
what'd you do?
So I was always a very creative person, and everybody that used to come over to my house, they used to take pictures, and you're so creative. You should do this professionally. You should design. And I just laughed. I was like, I never thought I'd work a day in my life. I just wanted to take care of my kids, be the at-home mother, make those 5-course suppers for them, and and for my husband. And that's all I wanted to do, is take care of the house, home, kids.
So what was your background? You got married at 19, and then when did you get divorced?
I got divorced 7 years later.
Okay, and you had 4 kids. Did you work at all aside from being a homemaker?
No.
So you had no prior experience of business or survival or anything like that?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So I always tell people this, that, like I could see all these crazy homes or crazy cars. I'm never really jealous of anything except for when I see, other women, my friends, I see their relationships with their mothers. And that just kills me. They rely so much on their mothers every time, like they need help mentally, physically, come babysit, give me a break, this, that. I really miss that. I miss not having that, and being divorced and not having anybody to fall back on.
No safety net.
It was really, really tough. Some girls move back into their mother's houses, or their mothers come over all the time and, give a helping hand. So that's what I really miss in life. And I really am jealous, of other,
I don't think
women
that,
that
I don't think that,
mothers.
I think maybe envious a little bit. I don't think jealous would be the right
jealous.
word.
Oh, you know what? That's the right word. You are right. That's the correct word for it.
I think envy would be a little bit more than that. And I think that, it's that's what makes, the village philosophy, that everybody takes care of everybody and you don't have that safety net. I understand that. And, my heart goes out to you, but however, you have transformed your life. So did you end up getting a job, or did you just dive head first and I'm going to be an interior designer?
No. So all these people, all these years were like, egging me on, you should do this professionally, and I kept saying, no way, no way. So then I was at breaking point where I had to come up with some way to support my kids, because there's only so much I get, pennies from child support. It's not enough to pay a rent and food and car. And so I said, you know what? Maybe I'll take everybody's advice. Everybody's been telling me all these years. Maybe I'll go into it. I don't need money to invest. And, you just work off your talents and your creativity. I didn't need that, that rich grandfather to give me money to start my business. You do it all on your own. So, kind
of like, I'm open. Here I am.
So I actually did my first couple of jobs, projects I did for free, just to get my name out there. And I tried to offer, like, somebody was opening a restaurant. Hello, I'll design it for free. They hear free, I'll take it. It's very hard to refuse free. So I offered a bunch of jobs that would be highly visible, meaning if they would come into the restaurant and they'd ask, wow, who designed this place? It would just be a ripple effect and get me the next job. But the thing is, I was, and I made a conscious decision. It wasn't until I was at that point break. I was in such negative mode all the time. I kept thinking my life is so unfair. Why me? All the time. I was just totally revisiting the past, thinking, what I should have said to my mother, what I should have said to my father, if I could rewind. I just kept on rewinding the past all the time, having sleepless nights, just thinking about everything that I should have done differently. And I just thought it was so, God was just being so unfair to me, just everything me, give something to someone else, leave me alone already, So, so I was really in the slumps, mentally. And it came a point where I did a mental shift. I heard all about this positivity, and I was like, oh, this is a bunch of nonsense. And then after a while, I said, you know what? Let me give it a try. Positivity brings positivity. I was like, let's check this out. So I actually consciously worked on myself. Every time my mind went to the past, I just pulled myself back to the present. No, I'm looking forward. I'm looking to the future. I'm going to succeed. Every time, and it was a struggle because I was so used to another way of thinking, how woe is me. And, this is really not fair. This is just, so I made that mental change, and it was not easy. And still today, every time I still, I've been doing this for years, but every once in a while, life turns, gives you a curveball and throws me off track, and I'm back on that negative train track. And I'm like, oh, where am I? Oh my God. I have to pull myself, in the right direction. It's still a struggle. It still happens all the time that I just slip back into negative mode.
So what is it you do when you're on that negative mode? How do you get back on the track of positive and being in present mode? What do you do?
So I feel I tell myself, I'm like, I go on podcasts. Everybody I meet, I just tell them how, to focus on positivity. And then I say to myself, I am such a hypocrite. Here I am preaching positivity. I'm like, you can't tell people to, think positive. And I just, that's how I pull myself back. I'm like, I'm not being a hypocrite. I am, doing as I say.
You're gonna
yes,
walk the talk.
Exactly. So I pull myself back. And sometimes, it's really tough. But I force myself mentally to do that, because otherwise, life is full of nonstop, tragedies, bad news, letdowns, curveballs, unexpected things happening nonstop. So I actually, to actually keep myself back on track, if you open up my spice cabinet, it says dream big, and another one, it says dream bigger. And I actually put myself little notes everywhere, in my closet. Everywhere I go, I have something to remind me, like, don't go off track. But I did that. I first did that when I first decided to become a designer. A lot of people were like laughing at me, like, you don't have schooling in design. Like, what do who do you think you're going to design for? And in particular, my closest friend, her name was Ricky, and I took her to the Jacob Javits Center. They had a design show, and I was walking around all the aisles. And she said to me, and we were carrying these heavy bags. I was taking leaflets, pamphlets from everybody's information. I wanted to start a business. I needed all these contacts and connections. And she tells me, who do you think you're going to design for? So I came home that night and I put a big sign. Every time I opened my closet, it said, show Ricky. And that was like, oh, I'm going to show her. And I have shown Ricky.
That's awesome.
Where I am today, where she is, nowhere. So it was part of my motivation. And also, I tell this story all the time that it just like, it just happened to be at the same time I was on Facebook and I saw, they have pop-ups. You may know this person. So somebody from high school popped up and they had a professional picture. And I was so, curious, like, what happened to him? I clicked on his name and it showed a whole list of accomplishments. And I was like, oh my God, I have nothing to my name. Look at this list of, and I'm empty. And I said, I gave myself like a goal. I said, I'm going to be greater than him. I'm going to, and that was, I picked him as my mentor and I'm going to beat him. And I think today I did. So, and I tell everybody to, find yourself a mentor, somebody that you could relate to, not some celebrity out there, somebody from your hometown, from your high school, somebody that became successful, that on a personal level, and let that be your booster.
Absolutely. So you became an interior designer and you advertised that you were free. And then one thing led to another and your life magically transformed in a positive way. And now you're incredibly successful. People are excited to work with you and you help other people that are starting in interior design start their businesses. And you focus mainly on, which I think is really cool, because in healthcare. Mm-hmm. And I think healthcare is a really important thing to be designed well. It's a very, I'm sure you've even done cancer centers, which I'm sure it would be near and dear to your heart.
Right. Hospices, people's, last few days. on earth. You want them to be calm and relaxed and in a serene environment. But there's also life lessons to learn in that too, because, let's say I design hospitals, I design drug rehab centers, I design nursing homes. Some of the times I see these old people and they're just for hours and hours, I'd be walking around, a project, taking pictures, taking notes. And like 6 hours later, the person's in the same place. The old man's in the same place, staring into nowhere, all depressed. And I say, sometimes like people come over to me and they like, oh, I love your hair. Your hair is so cool. I always wanted to be a hairdresser. I'm like, so why didn't you, And the old men will come over to me. Oh, you're with the contractors. I always wanted to be a contractor. So again, why didn't you? So I find like a lot of the faults are, let's say, parents, they're doctors or lawyers and they groom their kids to become doctors and lawyers like them and not even asking their kids, like what's pulling you? They're kind of like, pushed into a path because they want to be proud of their kids. They want their kids to go follow in their footsteps, but it's not even the right fit. And I find the same thing with wives. I yell at many women also. Their husbands are miserable working in 9-to-5 jobs. And they're pushing their husbands just to stay there, even though their husbands really want to do something else because they want their steady paycheck. They want to feel safe and secure. And they don't want to rock the boat, even though their husband really wants to be a plumber or electrician, is bored sitting in a 9-to-5 desk job. So it's a lot of people are guilty of misdirecting their kids and their spouses and not letting them follow their gut and do their calling.
Yeah, it's important to stay in your lane and to be in flow, and that when you're in flow and your life is laid out before you, you will discover that there's not a lot of friction in it. When you're in your flow and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, your life flows in such a beautiful way, and that's how you get that happily ever after.
You're really like happiness from the inside. You're following your dreams. So you're not making as much money as, your neighbor, but you're following your calling and you love working every day. Most people are like miserable and hate getting out of bed every morning, where I like jump out of bed. I'm so excited to start my day. What can I accomplish? But very few people are like that.
That's wonderful. Naomi, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story of transformation. And you're truly inspirational. So glad to have crossed your path and so glad that we finally got to connect. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm happy I'm here.
Awesome.
I wanted to tell you one more thing. My focus now has become giving back. So I have a lot of young girls that call me all the time that they're thinking of becoming designers. Actually, someone even called me last night. Can they come over? They wanted to discuss. They can't decide if they should leave their job. They always wanted to do this. So I tell them to come over, and I give them like my best tips and all my contacts, and I help set them up so they could do this on their own. So the number one message I always want to get out is you don't lose anything by giving back to others, by helping others in your own field. You said before at the start, what project meant for you, nobody could take away, because people are like, she could be your competition. Why would you give her all your contacts? Why would you help her out with a business? What's meant for me is meant for me. So I'm happy to help and give a hand to someone else in the business. And you mentioned also in the beginning, when something doesn't work out, it's the same thing. If the project isn't meant for me, when I first started and when I was still in like this like half negative mode, I used to cry when I didn't get a project. And now I'm like, okay, maybe this other person needs the money more. Maybe I was just saved from a horrible, nasty contractor. You have to, bottom line, the word is believe. You have to believe. You didn't get the project. There is a reason behind it. and you have to believe also that if you do goodness and you help other people, it will come back to you. You're not going to, lose a thing.
I love it. And if you believe that you want to get into interior design and you want to know more, you can reach Naomi at naomimamiyedesign.com. And she's super cool. And I wish you all the best. But thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you so much for your support and taking time out of your busy and precious day to listen to Life Transformation Radio. So appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me, along with my very special guests, to touch your heart, move your soul, and inspire you to live a life of transformation. I'm Rob Actis. Until next time.
This is Life Transformation Radio. Download complete.